see themselves as a region and an independent region, not a sort of city or place like Manchester. So I suppose my conclusion from there was that devolution is a message that can really resonate with people in different regions across the country, but it can't come cloaked in this kind of northern soul, Manchester-centric idea. It can't be about Manchester versus London. It has to be spoken to in a local way.
We're still awaiting a lot of details about what a future Andy Burnham government will look like, but we know devolution is going to be a big feature of that, and we've been hearing a lot about this number 10 in the north. But how is he regarded in other parts of the country, particularly in the southwest? Because, we do spend a lot of time talking about the north, but there is a lot of deprivation, there's a lot of inequality in those parts of the world, of Great Britain as well. Now, our associate editor of the Sunday Times, Josh Glancy, has been spending time in Redruth in Cornwall, and he joins us now. Josh, welcome to the show.
Good afternoon.
So what do the good people of Redruth feel about this number 10 in the north?
Well, as one person put it to me, well, if we can have a number 10 in the north, why can't we have a number 10 in the southwest? You do sort of wonder where the devolution ends in some sense. And I think generally, Redruth is almost 350 miles from Manchester. It's a long way from London too, and it has a very distinct Cornish identity. I think a lot of people, frankly, who aren't paying very close attention to political news weren't even exactly sure who Andy Burnham was. Certainly, lots of people weren't entirely clear that he was going to be the next Prime Minister. That's a bit of a surreal shift even for you and I. So it's not that surprising that people have other things to think about in their lives. But you won't find anyone in Cornwall with a bad word to say about devolution, because generally they really like the idea of less power in London, more power in Cornwall. It's a proud, independent sort of place. But they would want it to be very tailored towards them. So, for example, very few people in Cornwall like the idea of a Cornish mayor. There was an attempt to establish one a few years ago. They don't want a mayor. They see themselves as a region and an independent region, not a sort of city or place like Manchester. So I suppose my conclusion from there was that devolution is a message that can really resonate with people in different regions across the country, but it can't come cloaked in this kind of northern soul, Manchester-centric idea. It can't be about Manchester versus London. It has to be spoken to in a local way, and it has to be sort of site-specific.
And do you not think he would probably be doing that? Because it would be a bit mad to sort of be like, right, we're just going to do what we did in Manchester and replicate that all across the country. I mean, that would just seem daft, wouldn't it? I mean, there's very unique challenges facing different parts of the country. For example, the Southwest has got there's housing challenges all over the country, but particularly in the southwest because of the sort of the cycles of tourism and things like that. Lots of local people feel that people buying second homes, that kind of thing, is pricing people out. So surely the idea would be to do bespoke devolution, not kind of Manchester imposed devolution on the rest of the country.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you talk to people in Burnham's camp, they'll make exactly that point. I suppose the problem is that a lot of this is being done on vibes.
Yeah.
And people keep hearing the word Manchester, and number 10 in the north is even further away from Redruth than number 10 in the south. So my point is there is a case will need to be made, and it needs to be made quite effectively to people that this is about them too, and that it will be bespoke. And I just think there's quite a lot of scepticism that power will actually be actually released rather than relocated from up the M1. Because, part of the question with this whole devolution thing is about accountability, and it's about will say Andy Burnham's Labour really be willing to devolve power to places that, I don't know, might do things they don't like. They might want to cut immigration or cut taxes in ways that they don't approve of. They might be reform leading areas. Redruth is likely to go reform if you had an election tomorrow. So that's where I really think the rubber meets the road on.
Yeah. And I think that's particularly on house building as well, isn't it? Because one of the criticisms that the Labour government made of the previous Tory government was removing national house building targets. And there was an argument that, devolving that to sort of local decision makers would result in NIMBYism and not building enough houses.
Well, exactly. So if you have these national targets, but have devolved the power away to actually pursue them, that becomes quite tricky. So, when the top line word devolution, I mean, again, it's really popular in Cornwall and many other places, I would imagine, because conceptually it's an idea people really like. Local
Yeah.
people should make local decisions. But, we do already have large, powerful councils in a lot of these places that do exercise a lot of local power. Cornwall has a big unitary council. So it's not like there isn't any local power. The question is, as you say, for things like housing, our central government, whether it's in Manchester or London, are they willing to really let people get on and make decisions, even if it cuts against their priorities?
And so much of it as well, like so many, it depends on the execution. It's a bit like growth. I mean, who doesn't like the word growth? And, there's these sort of broad brush political terms, policy terms. Who could be against growth? Who could be against devolution? Who could be against good governance, right? They're all sort of smart things that we would want. But so much of it also comes down to the quality of the individuals doing the administrating and the bureaucracy, the local politicians, the talent, right? A lot of that comes down to how good the local people are.
Yeah, totally. And a couple of people mentioned that to me. They said, look, well, yes, in theory, but are we going to get, really high quality government here? Is there a sort of political culture here to sustain good decision making, good executive politics? Wales is obviously a common example. It's not that far from Cornwall, has quite a similar culture in some ways. Has devolution worked there? It's been a pretty mixed bag. I would say in some areas it really hasn't worked. And if you talk to people, I don't know, I was in Pembroke Dock a few months ago, not that dissimilar to Redruth in some ways, quite deprived, kind of post-industrial place. And to them, the Senedd and Cardiff was just another layer of expensive bureaucracy that hadn't really delivered much for their lives. So then you get to the question of like, well, how local do you want to go with this power?
Yeah. Absolutely. And sometimes people can get very frustrated when there's so many different levels of government bureaucracy. Things can sort of fall through the cracks, and accountability can fall through the cracks, and people can say, well, it's this person's responsibility. It's this person's responsibility. So it's about the sort of delivery. Well, look, really interesting piece, Josh, and thanks very much for your time. We'll speak with you again soon.
Yes.
That's Josh Glancy, and it's a fascinating piece, and I think it's a really important point to make, and actually it's a point that you have all made to me on a number of occasions about, yes, there's obviously deprivation in the north, but there's a lot of deprivation in other parts of the country. So, and also Labour historically never had a great presence in the southwest. There was always one little red dot in Exeter, which was a man called Ben Bradshaw, Labour MP. He was like the sort of only Labour MP in that area for a long time. So Labour, I think, has to do quite a lot of work in the southwest, is my humble opinion.